Welcome to this episode of the CCN podcast. I'm your host, Paul Medor. Today I'm going to have Stephen King from Rex MLS, an ICO-funded company and blockchain-focused project. I do hope you enjoy this interview with Stephen King. Have a great day. Again, you're listening to CCN.LA. I have on the line Stephen King, New Jersey. He's part of Rex MLS, a property/real estate based ICO. Hey, Stephen, how are you today?
I'm great, Paul. How are you?
I'm cool. So tell me, what took you so long to get the Rex ICO off the ground?
So we have been working on Rex for the last 18 months. My co-founder and I got started in January of 2016, and we had started to basically build this data engine. And when we got started, we didn't start out like, hey, let's build this great company. We just said let's build basically a tool that will decentralize real estate data dissemination. And as we continued to build it out, it turned into an actual product or a platform. And so we went to DevCon 2 after we released a proof of concept September of 2016.
So that's the Ethereum conference, is it?
Yeah, it was out in Shanghai.
Okay. Keep in mind some of our readers may not be familiar with things like this.
Okay, sure. So yeah, we attended that conference, and an angel investor had seen our proof of concept, and he said, "I'd like to seed fund you guys." So we were fortunate enough to raise some seed money.
So that wasn't your dad or you?
No, that was. I mean, we had been we bootstrapped the company ourselves until that point, and then he gave us a cash injection. I should say an ETH injection. To basically take this engine that we had built and lay an application on top of it. And I'll go more into what the engine does.
Yeah, but, why don't we hear about that? So, but first, the funding matter. I think that was one of the things that stuck out to me, was that you in particular and, your partner kind of didn't have to do it. Like, you must really be interested in doing it, because you both seem to have succeeded in your chosen fields. It's not like that's something that as an ICO and analyst I have to look out for. That's really what I'm looking for when I'm looking for the team, is like, did you fail somewhere else and that's why you're kind of coming here, and did you learn anything from before? But you guys seem to be doing fine. Real estate's not going anywhere. So tell us about really what catalyzed Rex.
So back in 2012, I had been doing real estate development and brokerage, and we were paying $10,000 a year to access real estate data through the various portal services and multiple listing services. And so I had decided to build an application that would scrape the internet for real estate data and dump it into a database that I had built. And I learned pretty quick that that's a very difficult task to do. There's a lot of end user licensing agreements that silo this information, and it really prohibits innovation in the space. So sort of serendipitously, shortly thereafter, came across Vitalik Buterin's white paper on Ethereum, which had led me into IPFS. And IPFS is another protocol. And in essence, what it says is the way that, email or data, let's say, Paul, I'm going to send you an email right now using Gmail browser. It's going to go from my computer to Gmail server somewhere up in White Plains, New York, and then it's going to hit your computer. And what IPFS says is, well, let's have that email go right from Stephen's computer to Paul's computer, or the shortest possible route. And so what that does is it cuts out a lot of these middlemen. So I saw, and my partner Russell saw, these were two great resources to disintermediate the way that real estate information is disseminated. And that problem that I'd originally had trying to scrape the internet and pull this information out of silos, well, this would be these new tools would basically open up all of those data silos, or at least we could potentially build a tool that would do that.
Right, because the data comes from people, so you could always lure people out of those silos, right?
Yeah, the basically what we put together was this tool, and it was a central place for everybody to put their information, but they wouldn't be giving it to us like they give it to Zillow or another portal service. Instead, everybody that puts information into this new database is an owner of that database. So it's a community-owned database rather than one centralized information portal, if that makes sense.
And then a lot of the same people contributing information have a need of other information that's in the database, right?
Absolutely. One of the big problems is that you have, even just here in the United States, you have all of these multiple listing services, and you have portal services all over the world, and those databases don't communicate with each other. So it's very restrictive based on your geography. So if I'm in California and I list a property, it's not going to really be seen by anybody else outside of California, unless it's on something like Zillow, but still it won't be seen outside the United States. So what our technology does is it creates a virtual handshake between all these databases, so that these 80 or so multiple listing services that are in the United States, their databases can communicate with each other. And Zillow's database could potentially communicate with realestate.com.au and in a lot of the China portal services. So now you've got the world that's globalizing through an increase of wealth and remote work accessibility, which you know something about.
Right.
And so you've got people that are buying real estate all over the world as opposed to in their same neighborhood or in their same county. So this provides a mechanism for those people to access those properties all over the world, and it provides a resource for the people that are listing those properties to get much more exposure on their listing and have a greater lead pool. And then so in terms of, go ahead.
I remember reading that you had some designs on a tokenized assets down the road, but it wasn't the primary drive at this point, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things that you can do, and that's actually where we started. We said, look, you could take a piece of real estate, something like the Chrysler Building. It's got a $3 billion market cap, and you could create a decentralized application, a DApp, and you could mint 3 billion, we'll call them CRY tokens, and token sale them and sell them for $1 each and purchase this asset. And then you
was
could
that
have
in the
it.
White paper, that example?
Yeah, it is. It's at
Okay.
it's in the footnotes.
Okay, I thought so.
But then you could just basically have a custodian that would manage, operate, lease, do all the legal stuff. And that custodian would be paid only as they hit certain milestones that are outlined in the smart contract. So it's a very obvious use case for real estate, but there is a lot of regulation that needs to come around. So
yeah, and that's why a lot of these tokenized asset ICOs are basically failures in the womb. They don't even seem to acknowledge the existence of regulators and that's unfortunate. But I noticed here in Rex, you're like, we can definitely do this other thing, and if we're successful there, we'd like to look into tokenizing properties where possible. That's a much safer approach in my book.
Yeah, we're just being practical. The data is hard enough, and the blockchain is in its infancy, and the infrastructure is still being developed. So starting with the data gives us the opportunity to really solve a problem that will take time to get this going. But as we do that, we've been in talks with regulators, major accounting firms, and both of our law teams here in the United States and Switzerland. And basically the response from what we've said to regulators is, let us show you that we can do these smart contracts using data. And once we're successful there, then we can talk about some of these other things like escrow services and way further down the line.
I think that their main concern is going to end up being that they don't want to do all kinds of extra work in the courts when enforcing these so-called smart contracts. And I think that once somebody, i.e. Rex or anybody, proves to them that it's possible to make it less work for them for the same pay, they will probably get on board.
Yeah, and it'll depend on how these things operate, right? So if you're redistributing profits from the revenue of a building, then you're most likely going to be considered a security. But if you're not, this may be a new asset class, which is what we're pushing for.
Now, that would be ideal. Obviously, that hasn't been the way the government has approached it so far. They'd rather fit the round pegs into the square holes. Regardless, so you funded, right? Sorry.
We did. We did our seed, and then we just finished our token sale. We had started planning for our token sale in December, and we spent a lot of time and resources on security. A lot of other token sales have been hacked. So we didn't want that to happen to us. We contracted with the right people. We wrote a lot of the infrastructure ourselves and kicked things off on July 31st. Unfortunately, in the first 23 minutes, we realized that the funds were being sent to a truncated address. And what that means is we had to improvise. We were using a hardware wallet to store the funds. And so the contract was the smart contract was transferring the funds to this hardware wallet. And during the transfer, it truncated the address, meaning the last 4 digits turned into zeros rather than the correct digits that they needed to be.
So how much ETH was lost in that? I mean, you guys just did a service to the Ethereum network by burning off some ETH.
Yeah. So it was 6,500, give or take, ETH. It equated to about 1.33 million. And so my co-founder called me up.
That?
Yeah, he called me up and he said, explain the situation. And so we said, look, let's relaunch a new contract and let's come up with a solution. So we took about 4 or 5 hours. We launched the new contract right away and continued to get contributions. And then we said, look, we can do one of two things. We can fold up shop, tell everybody, they're out of money and that's that, or we know what we have. We're miles ahead of our competitors in terms of actually building something. We have this engine that we built. We've started to commingle it with this beautiful front end that we put together. And we know that it works. We've tested it. So we can drain what we have left in our business accounts. And then we had been early investors in Ethereum. So we said we can cover the difference personally. And
so you can just issue the shares out of pocket. You can buy it from the new contract to compensate the people that got screwed.
Well, it wasn't even that. So the people that contributed that 1.33 million or that 6,500 ETH, they still were going to get their Rex tokens regardless.
Right,
but the
where
issue
was the money going to come from?
Yeah, exactly. How are you guys going to fund yourselves? So we said, well, we're going to fund ourselves personally. We're going to put our own money in to show you that we've got faith in this thing.
Okay.
So
that's a good move. I mean, it was y'all's mistake, right?
yeah, it was 100% our mistake, and we took responsibility for that. But
I think that's what we like to see. So it sounds like that worked out. I mean, I wasn't privy to that. I very rarely try to invest in ICOs at all. Most of them I'm banned from it because I'm in the United States anyway. So I wind up picking tokens up later on. But so tell us what you see the Rex decks, like who's using the Rex decks the most in, say, 3 years, and like how much it's grown.
Yeah, so we have 4 different people or segments that will be using it. We have the MLSs. So to the MLSs, what we're saying is you can contribute or you can utilize our infrastructure so that you guys can do a couple things. Your data will be able to communicate with all the other MLS databases that are in the United States and that are abroad.
And MLS stands for what, multi-listing service, or?
Yeah, multiple listing service.
Right, okay. It's a real estate term. I'm sure we're not all real estate people listening.
Yeah, no worries. So they'll have accessibility to other databases, and they can essentially they're some of them at least are they're not getting income for porting out their data to Zillow and to these other portal services. So we can provide an income source to these MLSs. So that's the one sell to those guys, and we've met with 2 so far, and we have a couple more lined up to speak to in September. The second group are the firms. A lot of the big real estate firms, the brokerage houses, if you visit their websites and you search through their listings, what's happening on the back end is it's pulling their listings from the portal service that they work with, especially the commercial firms. So it could be pulling from something called LoopNet, which is like the commercial version of Zillow. So what we're saying to the firms is we're going to give you this hardware device. It's about the size of an iPhone, and it's going to be preloaded with an Ethereum, a Rex, and an IPFS node. And all that means is that you're going to store all of your data on that node locally, which will help us decentralize the network. It'll help you maintain ownership or control of your data. And it also lets you go out and download any market in the world that's participating in Rex. So if you want to download Shanghai, Sydney, Tokyo, you name it, whatever market you want, you can do that. Then we have the intermittent, the smaller firms and the brokers. And that's where our application layer comes into play. So we've got an application that basically looks a lot like Zillow or the other portal service. And a user can come and they can upload a listing. And for every listing that they upload, they're paid in these Rex tokens. So call it 15 Rex.
Is there anywhere that we can see what that looks like currently, or is that still under wraps?
Yeah, so we've got a pre-alpha, alpha.rexmls.com, and it's buggy, and a lot of the features aren't in it yet, but it's on testnet.
All right, well, there you have it, listener. That's alpha.rexmls.com to check out what it looks like, what Steven's talking about. Sorry, Steven, please continue.
Yeah, no worries. And then, so those users can use those Rex tokens for certain features on the platform, or they could send them to an exchange and sell it for fiat. And then the last group, and probably the most important, is the buyer. So how do you get eyeballs on this database? And so what we're doing is we're utilizing a lot of the crypto infrastructure, and we're saying if let's say you're a user or you're an office guy in New York City, you specialize in leasing office space, and we'll call this guy Joe. And so Joe is going through all of the office listings on Rex's database, and he finds a bunch that are either under contract, off market, or maybe simply just don't exist. So Joe creates what are called a registry, a list, and Joe is able to go through basically all of the listings and pick out which listings are relevant and throw away the listings that are no good. And over time, Joe will start to accrue a following if he's doing a good enough job. And he'll become known basically for the downtown office New York spam feed. So people will only search office.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So he's basically making money for the information he already has by contributing it to verifying the database. Right.
Exactly. And so every market will have these Joes that are supported by people that stake or support them, put it that way, say they're doing a good job. And Joe can make money by creating value, and then the stakers can basically make money by backing the right kind of spam curators.
Are and the then stakers every forced to pay that? I mean, like, is it based on them finding use in the information that Joe provides, or do they have some sort of choice about picking Joe?
No, they have choice. So Joe has to actually open up a registry, and to initiate this, there's some voting that needs to go on. But how it works is it's expensive to do to not do the right thing. So those that are actually creating value on the site are going to be backed by more supporters. So the more support that Joe gets, the better he'll do, and the more he'll be able to earn. And he'll be able to earn money through basically advertising and promoting listings. Okay. So there's a lot of in between that goes on there, but essentially Joe he'll submit a request to put together one of these lists, and people are going to vote either, okay, Joe is the right person to do this, or he's not the right person to do this. And basically those that can see Joe's the right guy to do it will say, okay, he's the right guy to do this, so we're going to approve him to do this list. And as long as Joe is doing a good job, and you'll know if he's doing a good job by the amount of people or followers that he gets that subscribe to his spam feed, he'll continue to expand. So the better he does with curating the list, the more people subscribe, the more people that subscribe, the more he can expand and he can monetize his feed. So he becomes known as this ambassador for downtown New York City. And there'll probably be a number of Joes in New York. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a bunch of Joes in each market, all over the world. So although our application layer has a default spam feed, we don't want people to rely on us. We want real estate's a local business. So we want all of these markets to be decentralized and
right.
autonomous.
Right. So basically what we're talking about is the problem that's really solving anyway, like, is a problem that we can see with tokenized asset platforms where, like, someone may be offering assets that don't even exist. And if you're going to need a human element to verify the availability or the existence or whatnot, or even the current prices and whatever of the properties in question. So, I mean, how many users do you foresee, as we get started, and like how much does the size of the user base actually ultimately affect the Rex token's value in your view?
Well, so it's going to be supply and demand. We're focused on our initial pilot program, which will be China, specifically Beijing, New York, and potentially Sydney. And the reason for that is that's where we are talking to firms that want to participate in this pilot program. So that would be 3 or 4 firms we onboard. They put their data into the system, and then we start to expand from there. In the first year, that's really our goal. I mean, anybody's going to be able to go on and list and use our application layer to gain the listing rewards. But we'll really put a lot of our emphasis on those 3 markets and getting the Joes of the world to start to decentralize the spam and the comparable property feed component. Over the longer term, we expect to expand into other cities within the U.S., China, and Australia. And we've come up with what we call the Rex Ambassador program. And what that says is we'll initially pick 10 or 15 people in each city. We've actually already started to take down names and emails. And these people will go out and they will educate and onboard firms, and they will earn bounties for doing so for each new firm that they sign up and show how Rex operates. So in the short term, that's really our goal, is to get the 3 firms signed up, pilot, and then begin the Rex Ambassador program so we can start to scale.
So are you now full-time on Rex, or are you still selling properties too?
I've been full-time on Rex for over probably about a year now, and Russell is full-time. And we just brought on one of our contract developers, Brock. He's on full-time, and we're interviewing a 3rd developer right now, and then we'll be announcing 2 other hires next week.
Well, awesome. So it sounds like things are moving in the right direction with Rex. I don't have any more questions. Did you have anything else that the listener needs to know about? I guess what's the status of Rex tokens? When should they be issued, if anyone had bought some and were waiting for them or whatnot?
Yeah, so all tokens will be out by next week, and they'll be traded on Ether Delta to start, and then we're working on other exchanges. The exchanges right now are under a lot of scrutiny from regulators, so they have to go through new processes, which we're going through. But our goal is to get on as many exchanges as we can, get the token in circulation, and then get back to signing up these firms for the pilot program and developing this platform so we can have something solid, functional, and be operational by first quarter of 2018.
Wow. So that's pretty fast cycle. So I guess we'll be hearing more from you soon. It's only 4 months away before we're in January of 18. So I wish you luck. I know you've got a lot of work ahead of you, Stephen. And
Thanks, Paul. I
thank you
appreciate
for your
that.
time this morning. Again, that we were speaking to Stephen King from Rex MLS. That's rexmls.com. Thank you for talking to Crypto Coins News.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Have a great day and happy trading. I'm PH Paul Medor, signing off. Visit me at phm.link. Visit us at ccn.la.